of her passing. She had helped me tremendously in the district. We spoke frequently, and I was just very surprised and very saddened by that. And so I do want to extend my condolences on behalf of my family to the Millender family. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Gary City Clerk Suzette Rags. We happened to be in the same place at the same time, and we were talking, and I shared some information regarding some family concerns, and she was just very, very, had so much empathy, and she really, truly cared and talked to me about some things that were going on. So I really publicly, and I know she would never want this, but I do want to publicly thank her for everything that she did. There are a couple of, I've been following closely regarding the Gary Community School Corporation and the selling of buildings and what they're going to do with these buildings. I do know that the criteria for purchasing a building and basically setting up shop is that it needs to complement the community. And so I want to make sure that residents are aware of a couple of things. And I have concerns about the 4th District as it relates to the Gary Housing Authority. You may or may not know there's a conversion going on with Dory Miller. The site next to that is East Point, and they're putting more of those houses online to accommodate residents from Dora Miller during the conversion, and I'm very pleased about that. However, there is property on 11th and Madison Street in that area where residents were, I was always under the impression that it was going to be demolished at some point in time. I'm not really sure what's happening with that, but it is a concern of mine. It's a concern of the Pyramid Block Club and others to get that property back online and either to demolish it and come up with additional housing or whatever the Gary Housing Authority decides to do with that. Of course, we have Sojourner Truth House in the area, and with the new building, I was hoping that we could start to clear up that area and to enhance that area. And so when I learned that the Gary Housing Authority is going to spend $160,000 to purchase a building, which is fine for housing. Again, my concern is that you have housing already, and we need to get those housing back online, or we need to do something to that property so that it will increase the quality of life for residents in that area. The other site is the Gary Community School Corporation. The School Service Center site, the old one on Virginia Street. And what has been proposed is that Richardson Disposal wants to purchase that property and then to set up a second location in the 4th District, is what my understanding is, right on 10th and Virginia. First of all, Richardson Disposal serves a great need in the city of Gary. I don't know him personally, I've not met him, but I do know that his company provides a great service for residents in the city of Gary when you look at being able to take things that you may clean out of your garage or your spring cleaning or what have you, and be able to legally dump it in a place as long as you have a Gary's driver's license. So I have never had a problem with this company at all. It's just that I believe that the site is close to residents. It's across the tracks from homeowners on Virginia Street, and I have a concern about that type of operation in that particular at that particular site. I would have liked to have seen that maybe off of 15th Avenue as opposed to that. And then there's a lot of cleaning that needs to be done on Virginia Street. I mean, there's a lot of houses and buildings that are burned out and that needs to be taken care of. That area really needs to be cleared. And as I look at Pastor Whitaker and know that he had a structure torn down, and everyone is trying very hard to do their part to improve the city of Gary. Once that building was down, I could drive down Virginia Street and see the farm. Just a really beautiful sight. It's just amazing how just sometimes it only takes one building to open that space up. And so we need more of that in that area and on Virginia Street, and just want the residents to be aware that these are two things that are in the pipe for the 4th District, and wanted to basically let residents know what my concerns are, and also to make sure that they're aware of it. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to welcome Councilman Mike Brown. I was not here, or I was not there last night, but certainly I'm very pleased to have someone of your caliber and your experience, and I'm confident that you're going to bring you're going to compliment the Gary City Council. Congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. President, I would like to take this time to thank the people of Lake County for allowing me to serve as county elected official the last 14 years. I served as county recorder and recently as county clerk. It's been a blessing to represent Lake County and be a resident of Gary. But I'd also like to let people know that I submitted my resignation as county clerk today to the governor, and it was accepted. So it was done before I got sworn in. I'm officially a county, no longer the county clerk. I'm a council person. But I'd like to acknowledge my replacement, the Honorable Judge Lorenzo Arredondo. Would you please stand so he can be acknowledged? He's a very honorable man, and he and I have been transitioning in the last 3 months, so things are going well. I'm very proud of the staff in the clerk's office, and I'm proud to be able to work with the council. I thank the council people for all the warm welcomes, and I certainly thank the precinct organization for giving me an opportunity to vote for me last night to fill the Reagan Hatch, who's our former council person at large. She's now a state rep, and I'm excited about what we can get done, but I'm also humbled by what I've been able to do in the past, and I'm also humbled about what we can do in the future. I've watched council meetings, I've attended them, but now I'm sitting here. I want to learn as much as I can, but I want to be as effective as I can for change in the right way. I think the most important thing we can do is remember that we have a purpose and don't waste it. Thank you. God bless you. And I want to thank my wife and my family. Thank you.
All right.
Can't forget my wife.
No, you gotta please
Can't
don't.
go home.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I'd like to also congratulate and welcome our new councilman at large, Mike Brown. It's going to be an honor to work with you. I know you have a tremendous number of years inside of public service, and even before I sat in this seat, you encouraged me to run for this seat and to do different things, and I really appreciate that. But it's an honor to be able to sit here now with me and you both being councilmen on the same platform.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Also, and to our Judge Arredondo, who is our clerk-elect,
Yes.
Lake County, we're happy to have you here at the city council meeting also today. I was trying to let the mayor speak before she left because she's heading to a special event at the Theo Bowman High School, and hopefully we're not done before she gets back here. But I'll just go at this time right into third and final, and we'll come back to any other things.
All right.
CPO 2018-51, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 regarding the humane treatment of animals and animal control procedures in the city of Gary, sponsored by Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman of the 1st District.
Councilwoman Carlo.
We would like to table CPO 2018-51.
Second.
Been moving probably second to table CPO 2018-51.
Mr. President, may I explain why we're tabling it? Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman White.
We met at the Ways and Means Committee meeting last week, and we had several members of the public there and also the Animal Control Department. Subsequent to that meeting, the Animal Control Department wanted to make some changes on the ordinance, and I felt that it would be better to table the ordinance until we can make those changes and present them to the public for further discussion, and then we'll bring it back. And so this ordinance will be brought back in the new year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Been moving probably second to table this ordinance. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Yes. Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Yes. Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
Vote 8-0. CPO 2018-51 has been tabled. So ordered.
CPR 2018-09, a declaratory resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, designating that a certain area of the City of Gary be established as an Alliance Economic Revitalization Area to which deductions from excess value may be requested by an applicant to the Common Council of the City of Gary pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, President Ronald Brewer, Gary Common Council, Gary Redevelopment Department, the Gary Department of Commerce, and the Gary Economic Development Corporation.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPR 2018-09 on third and final reading.
Moving properly second. At this time, we'll have an overview. See, Mrs. Van Dyke is coming. Give us an overview.
Thank you very much, Council. I have with me Mr. Andy Gross, who is the principal and owner of Alliance Steel. Just to recap what we talked about at the committee meeting, this would be Alliance's steel company in Bedford Park, Illinois. They'll be bringing their business here to Gary to 2700 East 5th Avenue. I'll let him speak a little bit more about the specifics of what they do. You have in the memo that I prepared for you earlier last month that they have 100 jobs that are coming with them, and 30 new jobs are expected at full expansion. This is, we did an analysis to determine, this is a little differently as far as an abatement goes. We did an analysis to start to determine how we would be able to benefit as a city, not have it hurt our bottom line knowing our financial situation, while also being competitive to lure them here. We actually came out to an equitable arrangement where the city nets about $554,000 at the end of this abatement. So we'll still end up on top while providing an incentive to them. In addition, they've agreed to hire locally, first contract with Gary businesses and Gary employees. That includes finding bids locally as well as posting jobs locally, working with Tammy Davis, our compliance officer, and Diana Sandlin from Workforce Development to identify opportunities before they go out to the open market. There's also pretty strict reporting requirements, to put it frankly, some pretty involved reporting that they have to do back throughout the term of this agreement to show those efforts. To that end, they've already hired a project manager who's just got good commendations at the airport for exceeding high expectations for local hiring there, so they're off to a good start. With that, I'll leave it to Mr. Gross. Sure.
Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
Thank you. So, to start off, we've kind of been down the road with Joe and his committees and some other folks, and we really are happily being welcomed by the city of Gary. I have some information I can leave with you guys. I had a meeting last week with some folks here in Gary, and the big thrill for us is to provide jobs. There's two parts of this. So we're taking a building currently that's vacant, and we are going to spend several $1 million in renovating that building for our business. So that will involve a construction portion or renovation portion. We're hoping to occupy and be running that business by December of 2019. And the portion of the construction, we did just engage a company called Lee Companies that is very experienced in Gary in hiring local people to do the project. That's important to us. It's going to, we feel, benefit us. We think instead of going to some big, large contractors, we've engaged them to help us manage that locally because he and they tend to know all the people here, which, coming from Bedford Park, which is an industrial area, we have contacts, but we feel that it's better to set our roots here. So what we've done is, the one thing that I want to remind everybody is that this is the infant stages of this. We literally closed on this building 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So we've already started the ball rolling with Joe's help, and actually Bo was originally in on that. So we've learned a lot, and one of the second part of this is explaining to our folks in Bedford Park what the hiring policies are going to be. And so what I did was I actually prepared a letter and included the governance of the agreements, and then I had all the department heads sign in an understanding. They all signed from purchasing to HR, that they understand what the obligation is in coming to the city of Gary that's going to help us come here and has incentivized us to come here. And certainly there's a lot of folks, whether it was Wisconsin or Indiana, we kind of feel this is the beginning of the resurgence for the Gary area, that we can be the cornerstone to provide new employment, and that we can provide some training, and we think it's a rich environment to draw people into our company. And there's a lot of skilled labor that we pay a pretty good wage to. So for us, there's a lot of reasons that benefit us, but I want to be able to tell you that we're committed to benefit the local area, the city. The message has been delivered in our company internally, and we're about to deliver that message relative to when we build the project out. We're a steel distributor. We cut and process steel. We don't affect environmentally anywhere. There's nothing bad about what we do. There's no I don't want to say it's not hazardous. Steel could be a little hazardous. We've all been driving by those big steel coils, which I'll explain to you guys. But all in all, we're a very good company. We're a small family-run company. Actually, my son is sitting there. We're a generational company, and we're setting roots. We didn't come here to leave, I can tell you that. So I would welcome any questions that you have relative to what we're doing.
Is there any questions thus far from any council members?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown?
I don't have any questions, but I certainly do have a comment.
Yes.
And I mentioned it at the Finance Committee meeting, and I want to say it again. Of course, this is only the declaratory portion of this. We have to still do the confirmatory one, but I wanted to say to him that I am delighted that you're coming to our city, that you are bringing not only jobs, you're bringing additional tax revenue to our city, and we're just delighted to have you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very
And making
much.
you a part of our city. So
Thank you.
thanks again so much for coming.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it's a win-win. I do. I think, they worked it out, so it's a win-win.
Is there anyone else? Can you speak on the jobs? Can you speak on the price range or starting range where you will be hiring?
So I don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you, I believe our average wage is $31, and that is inclusive of some benefits. I believe a laborer starts at about $14 to $15 an hour. They would be a bander. So, and that could vary depending on their skill level, their experience level, but so I don't want to guarantee you 15, but with benefits, it would be close to 15.
There's no one else. So I'll go back to Joe, and let Joe wrap up with any other questions.
And I just want to say, I brought copies for everybody, if anybody would like what we presented.
Yes, if you could, give it to Councilman Proctor, and he'll make sure we all get them.
Sure, so just by way of process, and Councilman Brown just alluded to it, in your packet, attached to this resolution were all the supporting documents. So under statute, we go through the declaratory process, he went through committee, we have an opportunity to answer questions, vet the project, and then there's a statutory advertising period where we have to post prior to coming back to the council with all of the supporting documentation, and all that should be in your packet. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that, just from a process standpoint.
And this is not, like you said, our normal tax abatement. This is not a 10-year, this is only a 5-year.
Right. So again, we sort of looked at it a little differently. In the past, there was just essentially standard 10-year tax abatement, 100, 90, 80, 70, all the way down. This year, we sort of again started from zero and found how could we provide a benefit to the company and be competitive as they're looking for a new site, while also netting positive for us. So it's a 5-year abatement. It gives them 6 years to see the full benefit of those 5 years worth of abatement dollars.
One last question, and with the job piece. So you say you have 100 jobs and you're going to bring on 30 more. Are those 100 jobs already, people are already saying that they will commute
So
to the city?
we have about 100 employees right now. We think there will be a strong percentage that will come to Gary for a while. We expect there to be some attrition because these are folks that live in Illinois. So there's going to be some immediate job. I can't speak to exactly how many people. The plant people.
Speak to the mic, please.
Sure. The plant people will be probably far more limited, and so we're going to have some job openings.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Brown.
how many years have you been at that location where you're at now?
20.
From a perspective, do you see yourself being here 20 years?
There's a difference, immediate difference. I stuck a stake in the ground here. We bought that building. Where we currently live, we leased that building. So we made a strong commitment to be here. It's extremely costly to move our type of business. We have millions of dollars that we are going to put into foundations into the ground, and you can't take those foundations with you. So we're going to be here a long time.
So there's a strong chance you can see some profit by being here from a long-term relationship with our city.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Proto.
how far is this place from here?
How far is Bedford Park from Gary? It's right by Midway Airport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering how far the employees was going to have to drive.
So we have some employees that are as far west as Wheaton and Joliet. I think that some of those folks may not come. It's hard to figure out exactly what decisions they'll make. That's why we think that there's going to be some opportunity here.
Well, hopefully Mr. Van Dyke is coming before with some new housing projects too. So
Right, there you go.
Some new residents. Okay, if there's no other questions from any other council members, I'll move to a public portion at this time. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPR 2018-09? You have 3 minutes to speak on this order.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Milwaukee. I live in the 2nd District, and we all know Gary is a steel city. For many years, the taxes paid by U.S. Steel covered almost 50% of the city's budget. Now that's changed, and now residents pick up the vast majority of the taxes used to operate city government. And U.S. Steel and other steel and operators in our community get largely a pass. Here we heard in the overview that we'll be receiving about $500,000 of tax money over this period of this abatement. And of course, in the documents that you've got before you, that the company receives almost $2 million in abated tax responsibilities. So while anyone would welcome a new business coming to Gary, we also have to keep our eyes open with these tax abatements. We know that U.S. Steel is going to come before us in a few months, and they're going to want a big tax abatement on their almost $1 billion investment. So we know that's the lay of the land, that where once the steel industry supported the city, now the city supports the steel industry. And I guess that's because of our Gary Common Council, it's because of our state legislature. That's the burden that's placed on our city now. I know that Mr. Gross makes a very nice presentation today, made a lot of promises today. And we've seen that from these abated projects over and over again. We'll never see Mr. Gross again. We'll never see them again because we've never seen any of the people who come before the council on these 5-year abatements making a lot of promises, but we'll never see them again at this council meeting if the future holds to the past. Maybe Mr. Gross will come back again, but we know that we've never seen any of the candidates for these other abatements. So, Mr. President, members of the council, we know this is going to happen. We welcome Mr. Gross, we welcome his company, Alliance Steel. Glad to see him. We remember that Mr. Gross put in a bid. He was going to buy some property in the city, $300,000 was going to be cash in our pockets. And I think he went out, he welched on that agreement with the city. Matter of fact, he outbid me on that project. Isn't that something? In other words, he could bid a big bid on the project, but then he beat out a Gary resident who wanted the property too.
So you got some personal issues. Right?
So we're going to certainly be glad to see Alliance Steel moving into the old Berkheimer property there. And I know Mr. Gross is excited about a $2 million abatement. And if we're going to brag about the $500,000 that we're receiving over the period of this thing, let's remember, we've got a bigger problem when U.S. Steel asked for the same deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's keep all the personal issues to ourselves, okay? It's personal.
Good evening to the council. I'm concerned about abatements too, because when I look around our city, look around at what some of the things that we need done in this city, that usually taxes pay for. I hear it all the time. Matter of fact, I just left a parent meeting, and one of the things that the parents are saying is, why are our schools in the shape they're in? Why are our city in the shape it's in? Well, $2 million, that's a huge abatement, but why not give them just $1 million? And then also, where are the ones that previously got tax abatements? What have they done? I remember, I've only seen one place that came here that asked for your agreement, and I've only seen that big company give back to this city after receiving some sort of an abatement. So if it's been others, then please correct me, because a lot of the people in the city don't see it, and they haven't heard it. So maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to show that the people that got their abatements in the past are still here, are doing more for our community, and then they'll be open to not complaining about getting any more tax abatements. Thank you.
Seeing no one else,
Mr. President.
public portion now closed. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, I think that people need to understand, first of all, we've not done tax abatement of this magnitude in many years, okay? Secondly, the council has the ability to make changes. Once we grant tax abatement, we have the ability to make changes, and it's right here in this resolution, that we do have the ability to make some changes if, in fact, the company does not live up to its expectations. So, I just want to make sure that people understand that, and we've not done abatement of this magnitude. I've been on this council a lot of years. We've not done abatement of this magnitude in many years, and I think that the city benefits tremendously from providing abatement to this company, who in turn will do many things for this city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councilman Smith?
Okay, Mr. President, I'm not a proponent of abatements, but I will say in this case, there is a trade-off, and the trade-off seems to benefit the area and equally benefit the person at a company that wants to come here. So I just want to put that out there. I'm aware of abatements and how we've not seen the benefits from them in the past. But in this case, there seems to be a trade-off that is manageable, and that we will see some benefits. And as Councilwoman Brown has stated, if it does not work out, then we have some other remedies that we can resort to help us get to those numbers. Thank you.
And we might also say this is the declaratory portion of this resolution, okay? We still have to pass the confirmatory.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Brown.
I would just like to say, cities like Hammond have done well because of the abatement issue. Hammond was able to steal from Munster, and in order for us to be competitive, we have to welcome abatements as well as other businesses. Other than that, other communities are going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to be right here where we are.
Right.
So at some point, we've got to open our eyes and look at it from a business perspective and move forward. We cannot move forward if we don't open our eyes and be competitive with the other communities who are giving abatements, and in the long run, they are benefiting because other businesses see that, and they come in and they create revenue, create more jobs, but there has to be a starting point, and we have to be more aggressive. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Van Dyke?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as a point of clarity, I would hate for misinformation to be spread. This isn't a $2 million abatement. This is a $1,200,000 abatement.
And the total cost of this project?
The total cost of the project is $19,700,000.
That sounds like a good investment to me. Okay. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
For the vote of 8-0, CPR 2018-09 has been adopted. So ordered.
Mr. President, as pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Council pending ordinance resolution on second reading.
CPO 2018-63, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budget for the operating expenses of grants donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-63 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on December 18th.
Moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Proto? Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-63 is moving to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. with a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2018-64, an ordinance authorizing the City of Gary, Indiana, to make temporary loans to meet current running expenses for the use of the General Fund, Park and Recreation Fund of the issuer in anticipation of and not in excess of current taxes levied in the year 2018, collectively in the year 2019. Authorizing issuance of temporary loan tax anticipation warrants to evidence such loans and the sale of such warrants to the Indiana Bond Bank, and appropriating and pledging the taxes to be received in such funds to the punctual payment of such warrants, including the interest thereon. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-64 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on December 18th.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-64 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2018-65, an ordinance authorizing the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, to make loans to meet the current running expenses for the use of the General Fund, Park and Recreation Fund, and anticipation of current taxes levied in the year 2018, collectively in the year 2019, estimated to be received on or before December 31st, 2019, authorizing the issuance of tax anticipation warrants to evidence such loans and the sale of such warrants to the Hammond Local Public Improvement Bond Bank, and appropriating and pledging the taxes to be received in such funds to the punctual payment of such warrants, including the interest thereon. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-65 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on December 18th.
Been moved properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-65 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2018-66, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Gary Redevelopment Commission, 504 Broadway, Suite 200, Gary, Indiana. Property at 1301 Broadway, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
I move the passage of CPO 2018-66 on second reading with the planning hearing on 12/11 at 6:15 and public hearing 12/18 at 6:15.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Vote 8-0. CPO 2018-66 is moved to the Planning Committee December 11th at 6:15, and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-67, an ordinance repealing ordinance 6708, which created EMS Fund 224 and all amendments related thereto, and established a non-reverting fire service and ambulance service account for the Gary Fire Department, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Chief Paul Bradley, Gary Fire Department.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-67 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th, 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on December 18th.
Moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-67 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2018-68, an amendment to ordinance 9150, 2018 operating budget appropriations for the City of Gary regarding motor vehicle highway fund, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-68 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on December 18th.
Move properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-68 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-69, an ordinance establishing $50,000 in appropriations for the City of Gary Buffington Harbor study from casino funds, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-69 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th, 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on December 18th.
Move properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2018-69 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
CPR 2018-10, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, authorizing participation in the motor fuel budgeting program of the Indiana Bond Bank for 2019 budget year, the execution of the qualified entity reimbursement agreement in connection therewith, and other related matters, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPR 2018-10 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 11th, public hearing on December 18th. Oh, at 5:30, I'm sorry.
Been moved properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, CPR 2018-10 is moved to the Finance Committee December 11th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 18th at 6 p.m.
Mr. President, is pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you. I want to announce that the reorganization meeting of the Gary Common Council, and I would need a motion on this also, would take place Tuesday, January the 1st at 12 noon right here in the Genesis Convention Center. Can I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the reorganization meeting for the Gary Common Council be held on January 1st. Did you say at noon?
Yes.
At 12 noon.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Councilman Brown. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell? Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the reorganization meeting will take place here in the Genesis Convention Center Tuesday, January the 1st, 2019 at 12 noon. Also, we will go right into the council meeting at 12:15 that same day, so we'll be posted. So any business of the council will take place at 12:15. We know City Hall is normally closed, but we are open because we are already in session. So let's just go ahead and take care of what we need to take care of, and we don't have to worry about coming back that Wednesday. Somebody got to do it. So the reorganization meeting consists of electing the president or re-electing the president and and the vice president or re-electing the vice president. So that one will take place in a reorganization meeting, and we'll move right after that at 12:15. We will go into the council meeting and take care of any business that needs to be taken care of on January 1. At this time, the mayor hasn't made it back yet, but our chief of staff is here. Any announcements from the mayor's office?
Good evening, everybody. I did not get the announcement package, but I wanted to share a couple of things with the council. Particularly, we're now going through open enrollment for the insurance, and you need to, because we're getting a new provider, you do need to participate in the open enrollment and make a selection.
You, Mike?
Maybe if I get closer. Okay. So I wanted to share with the council, I don't have the announcement package, so I don't have the other announcements, but I wanted to share with the council that we are going through open enrollment currently. And because we have a new provider, everyone needs to go and participate in open enrollment and make a selection. So it's happening today, tomorrow, and the next day here at the Genesis Center. So please make sure you stop by and make an election for all of those impacted.
Is there a certain time that we?
It is 9 to 4? Okay, I was about to say 10 to 4. 9 to 4. 9 to 4. So that's it for my announcements, unless there are questions for me.
Is there any question for the chief of staff? Councilwoman Wyatt?
Just one question. At the last council meeting, we asked for the reduced budget that was going to be provided.
Yes.
And
I do have copies.
I
do have copies. So it is the working budget. So it'll show you the budget submitted for the levy. It'll show you the working budget. It'll show you what was spent in 2017 and where we're trending in 2018. So I have those to pass out to the council. Okay. Any other questions?
Anyone else with any other questions?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Carolyn, Mike's way over here.
Do we have a status on when we will be able to go back to our home? Meaning City Hall chambers?
Yes, we do. I'm looking for Dan who can give that status.
We're waiting for the insurance adjuster.
Okay. So I can provide it as soon as we get a response from the insurance adjuster. Okay.
Councilwoman, I don't anticipate us being back there for a little while. There's damage to the chambers, so I don't anticipate us being back at City Hall for a little while now. I'm looking at probably March before we return back. Because of the work that's not so much of what's going on inside the chambers, but their work is going to go into the spring on the roof. And I don't want to put us in any more mishaps or have to cancel any meetings and stop any of the business. So I'd rather that we continue to work over here until all work is completed at City Hall.
So Melissa has just shared with me some additional announcements, so if you can indulge me just for a minute more. There's a reminder to our citizens to take the necessary precautions during inclement weather. Many of our citizens experienced power outages last week during the storm in the morning following the rain and snow, and we're faced with icy road conditions. Our road crews were out last night, beginning at midnight, salting and monitoring the street. Yes, we have experienced some challenges, but we want to make it clear that the city does have salt, has had salt. We will never run out of salt. And through this winter season, we urge citizens to report any concerns to 881-1311. The Gary Fire Department is hosting a coat drive. Coats, hats, and gloves can be dropped off. New hats along with new or gently used coats and gloves in all sizes, infants to adults, male and female, to any Gary Fire Department station between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Donations will be accepted through up until Monday, December 17th. The Police Department is hosting a pajama and sock drive December 4th through December 21st. Drop off new pajamas and socks at the Gary Police Department or Jay's Breakfast Club during those time frames.
As far as women's shelters that are in place, do we have a list of the women's shelters?
We do have a list that is posted on our website, and just make sure, posted on our website, is included in our newsletters. We have added it to the rotation on the cable access channel.
Any other questions? Anybody want? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
This past Saturday, myself and the mayor had a chance to do a walk and shop on Lake Street to support the businesses on Lake Street there throughout the whole construction that's taking place there. We are continuing to encourage ones to support the businesses on Lake Street. They are starting to wrap up for this year with the construction, and the street is starting to be open back up. They are in another section now on Lake Street, but we're making sure that the road continues to stay open and not closed completely. So if you will have any issues with any of the work that's being done on Lake Street, please contact either City Hall or your council representatives that we may address those in a timely fashion. Also, Representative Smith will have the Penny-a-thon this Friday, December 17th on WLTH. He's asking if you will call in and pledge your pennies. They have a goal of $3,000 is their goal, and they will go from 6 a.m. to noon. So all that can help support this effort in the Penny-a-thon for this year. We have two speakers for tonight. Mr. Cliff Caldwell and Mr. Jim Nowacki are two public speakers.
Good evening, Council. Cliff Caldwell, 5th District. I want to talk a little bit tonight about public safety. As many of you know, I am a public safety officer for Lake County Sheriff's Department. With the roads in the city and the conditions that they are with the snow and ice and everything, I was speaking to several officers over the last couple of weeks. Gary police officers are being told by the police garage that the city has no tires for them. 6 officers in the patrol division that I know of have tires that look like laces with totally bald. On brand new SUVs, we just purchased these SUVs a little over a year ago, and we can't even put new tires on there for the winter time for the officers. Also, one officer's vehicle was damaged. He was struck by a dog by an officer who no longer works on the department, into another agency, and the officer still has to drive with no front bumper.
These are minor things that I think just take a little bit of money. We're not talking millions of dollars. We're talking about maybe a $200 bumper. I used to have the same patrol vehicle at a previous department and had the same issue with a bumper. I think it cost $250 to replace it. And she's been driving for a year with no front bumper, which is violation of state law. You have all the front end with a bumper. Also, as it relates to maintaining police officers, I know we gave our police officers a significant raise, but many of them are stating the conditions within the department is forcing them to continue to leave. We just had a hiring process at the county, and we had 15 Gary PD officers go through the process for the Lake County Sheriff's Department. So I know President Bull did a lot of work recently with the police department, but I encourage more council people to get out there and actually see the conditions. So when it comes time to appropriate funding for the police department or address conditions in the police department that will help with retention, we can get ahead of the game. We're losing officers to Hammond, Lake Station, Sheriff's Department. We lost one officer a couple weeks ago to Millville PD. So I think we kind of have to stop the bleeding. Our ranks keep dropping, and we just keep trying to put a Band-Aid over it. Another thing I want to address with the, there were some allegations in the recent news article, and I would like to request that due to these allegations, and we do have several federal partners that work with our law enforcement in the city, I would request that President Bull make a reassignment to the Public Safety Committee and remove Chairman Councilwoman Linda Barnes-Caldwell and make a new appointment to that position while these allegations are being investigated. Thank you.
Mr. Wack.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Milwaukee. I live in the 2nd District, and I've been before this council several times complaining about the shoddy, substandard work provided by the Ruth Riley Company under their state contracts, both to rebuild the 1220 Fifth Avenue and 4th Avenue on the Broadway project. Mr. President, I've come before this council many times bringing specific instances where the substandard work was obvious and very clearly a problem and needed to be addressed and serviced. In some of those instances, the state has brought the contractor to repair those things. In other instances, the state expended $250,000 to address some of those other problems. Mr. President, I'm going to talk about a specific problem that I brought to this council before, and that's along Fifth Avenue. This was a project that was completed 4 years ago, and there was extensive flooding along the south curb of Fifth Avenue, both to the east and west of Broadway. The state had allocated $260,000 to fix that flooding, but they are not going to fix the worst of the flooding right at Broadway. Broadway directly on the east side of Broadway along Fifth Avenue, and they said that there was no infrastructure there to address this huge 300-foot puddle, 300-foot by 20-foot puddle, 8 inches deep. There's no way to do it because the infrastructure's not there. But Mr. President, that flooding wasn't there before they rebuilt the street. And the reason that the flooding is there is because they didn't grade the street properly. There are sewers on both sides, and if they had graded the street properly, those sewers would have taken that extra water and brought it to where the water is supposed to go off the street. I'm going to be at the NERC meeting again this month. Now, I've been at those meetings every month over the last 4 years, almost exclusively complaining about the Ruth Riley Company and the shabby, substandard work that they provide in our city. But this is terrible that the state is going to simply say, we can't do that because we don't have the infrastructure in place. We've got a sanitary district. We spend millions of dollars on water retention, water management, etc., but we can't allow that flooding to remain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. Mr. Vakari, and I'm going to address this because I did get a chance to see what you're talking about with the current rain structure that we have. Can you address that for us right here on 5th and Broadway where it's directly in front of the bus shelter, and I got a chance to see that. It stretches all the way down past the Dalton apartments there into the old law office that used to be there also too. Significant number of water.
I'll need to double check anywhere east of Broadway on the south side of Broadway, but there are 4 locations.
South side of 5th.
Yeah.
South side of 5th, but there are 4 locations that NDOT is working on currently. They've contracted with Garrett Construction, and those are currently underway. What I don't know that is whether or not the area you're referring to is being addressed under that contract, but I will check.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Chief, I have to address some of these issues when they come up, especially this nature about public safety. Can you address some of these issues with cars and things of that magnitude?
Yes, sir. Good evening. In regards to the vehicle tires with the passage of the limit to 254, the non-revolving fund, we're now able to purchase tires for our vehicles, and we can begin the process of changing those out. Actually, we do have an order coming in tomorrow, and I believe also on Thursday, so we can begin the process of outfitting those vehicles that need tires with new tires. Also, we're able to do some of the needed repairs that we haven't been able to do with parts have been ordered. We've paid vendors for past due work, and we're able to order new parts. So those repairs to vehicles are going to be able to be taken care of now.
What is the process when an officer discovers something is going on with their car? What is the process that an officer goes through?
The officer would notify the supervisor of that vehicle, depending on the nature of the issue with the car, would down that vehicle and be assigned another vehicle to that vehicle can be repaired. They'll take that vehicle to the vehicle maintenance garage, and that vehicle, a ticket will be drawn up, and then they'll do the needed repairs for those vehicles.
Is there any other question from council members?
Yeah, I have a question.
Councilman Pro.
So what you said is that the complaint we just heard, evidently they didn't report that to their supervisor that they were driving a car with bad tires. From what the gentleman was saying.
No, we are getting an order of tires, so now that because of the non-revolving fund, we can be able to purchase new tires for the vehicles, and we can outfit those vehicles that need the tires with new tires.
Okay, because I thought you said they would get something else to drive until it was taken care of.
No, he asked me what the process was for if an officer reports some malfunction to his vehicle.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Smith.
I just want to say that, and we utilize code now in the police department for repair vehicles, so the funds are there, as the chief just indicated. And we just amended the auction fund just recently. So it took a while. We're on top of this, and it's going to happen. So funds will be there, or are there now to provide for replacement of tires and other necessary equipment. One other thing, Mr. Nowacki has a point about the streets, and I've complained about this before to the council. I used to be an Army engineer officer, so I know how to build a road. And what I've noticed in the past is that the contractors that are doing the road are not putting a crown on the road, they're strict grading. They're just explicitly grading the road. They're not putting that crown, which will result in water running off sides and into drainage. So Mr. Nowacki has a valid point that definitely needs to be reviewed.
Mr.
Well,
President?
Brother McCann, have a good night. Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes, I would just add that Mr. Vicari wasn't sure of the status at that location, but I just want to add that site has been in the 311 system quite frequently because I get calls from residents at Dalton, the Dalton Apartments, and that particular site has been flooding for years. And so if you get some additional information regarding that, I would certainly appreciate you sharing that with me, because it's a major problem.
Well, hopefully at the next council meeting, we can have a full update from the sanitary district.
Okay.
And even Mr. Whitaker, I know he hasn't said anything to me about it. It even floods, tremendous amounts of puddles is even down by his office also too. So it's all the way down there, some major issues with flooding through there. And I have to concur, it's not so much of the crowning, because it's crowning over to the side on that part there, but nothing is running to the drains like it should, yeah. So, we're on top of that, Mr. Nowacki. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and being with us, and thank the ones for viewing us at home, and look forward to seeing you all at our next council meeting. December 11th is our next council meeting right here in the Genesis Convention Center. The 18th. That committee meeting is on the 11th, and I'll see you all back here on the 18th. You all have a good night. Anything more for adjournment? Now adjourned.